Hi, we're here today again to talk about the modern guide to antique jewelry. And today we're here with Elizabeth Doyle from Doyle Doyle, which she owns with her sister Pamela. And Elizabeth opened her first store down on the Lower East Side of Manhattan in 2000. She then moved to the Meatpacking District and had a beautiful space there. And then now her website's doing so well that she decided to move to Union Square, which is like a wonderful area as well in Manhattan, and do by appointment only and sell from the website and Instagram. Is that correct, Elizabeth?
Yeah, it has been great with it's such a weird side effect of the pandemic, but people have really gotten used to shopping online and we can just provide such a good service virtually. I mean, like just see what we're doing right now, talking to each other through the computer. It's become a really great way to connect and it's worked really well. So yeah.
So great. And Elizabeth, Elizabeth and Pam have all the different time periods. Like they go from Georgian to the 70s, and they also do a line of their own based on, not copying, but based on antique jewelry. So very knowledgeable. So I think we're going to talk today though about one of our favorite pendants, so to speak, which is lockets. And because Elizabeth always finds such wonderful lockets from all different time periods. And so Elizabeth, when did lockets begin to become popular, would you say? And then how did they progress?
Well, we started seeing a lot of lockets in the Georgian era, although, locket, it can be interpreted as many things, and there's always been jewelry that's been used to hold things, talismans, important pieces to people, or maybe an image of some sort. But in the Georgian era, especially with mourning jewelry sort of taking off, or memorial pieces, we start to see lockets a lot. And I have this locket that's a Georgian example, really beautiful with this repoussé work and the 3 colors of gold. This is not a mourning locket, but it's a beautiful Georgian example. It's a sentimental piece, with the heart and the pansy flowers, which of course is symbolic of think of me, coming from the French pensée, which I think you touch upon in your book. You talk about all the different important romantic symbols. But then lockets really take off in the Victorian era. And I think that what's amazing about the Victorian era is you have jewelry that like just spans every sort of price point. It's when it becomes available to the masses. Like there's the industrialization and that they can start stamping, they can start making jewelry really affordable. So you have inexpensive lockets, like actually I'm wearing this one in 9 carat. It's a little hard to see, but it has a beautiful hand engraving on the surface. That's a scene with a house and water and even a sailboat in the background. And this would have been very inexpensive and just available to the masses. But then you have something like this beautiful locket, which would have been, it's still not wouldn't have been terribly expensive at the time, but more expensive. And this is all guilloche enamel. And it still has the matching chain, which is amazing. Yeah. And this is a locket back. It has the original hair in it. I don't know if you can see that, but and this would have been a sentimental piece, not necessarily a mourning piece.
So yeah, let's talk about that for a second. A lot of people associate, I talked about this with another another person I interviewed, Pat Novissimo, who we both know, about not all hair jewelry, not all jewelry with hair was mourning jewelry. And obviously in the blue enameled heart with the chain, it could have been a lock of, a child hair that a mother wanted to keep close to their heart. In a heart, right?
In a heart. Exactly. Yeah,
So,
but then something more like this one, with the black, this is more likely to be a morning piece because it has the hair. Um, and the black is usually associated with mourning.
right.
So, you know, there's so many different rules about mourning, and it depends on when exactly the piece is from. So in some areas, you're not going to see diamonds, and sometimes it was okay to have some diamonds, and it depends on what period of mourning you were in. So there's a lot of rules around the mourning lockets, but generally when you see the black, you know that it's mourning. Or white enamel, but that would have been for an unwed woman or a child. Yeah, it symbolized the purity or the
Yeah.
virginity of the person.
I want to just go back to that locket for a second.
And this one is in your book. It was beautifully
Yeah,
featured.
yeah, that's in my book because of the banded agate,
Mhm.
which is amazing. So, and also before we get to the banded agate, also, does that one have pearls around it? Yeah.
It does, yeah.
So the pearls also sometimes represented tears, but didn't always represent tears. But in mourning jewelry, it represented tears. So, I mean, you always have this like, was it or wasn't it? But with the black, we would think, the black,
Yeah.
the banded agate. But can you just talk about the banded agate for a second? Because I love the idea of talking also.
Yeah, so the banded agate is it's a stone that has layers of color. So you could see it's black and white, and then there's black on the bottom again. And often, or this one, they would either call it banded agate or bullseye agate. And a lot of times when you see bullseye agate, that also is it could symbolize the evil eye. So it could be used to ward off evil spirits or bad luck. But you also see banded agate used in cameos. So you see it carved through the different layers beautifully. And depending on how many layers and how talented the cameo carver is, you could see like, sometimes you'll see like white flowers in the hair, and that will be the white layer, and then they'll carve down and it'll be the dark hair, and then it'll carve down again and there'll be a white face. So you'll see like layer upon layer using the agate to create both the depth and the color contrast.
There was so much you could do with agates. I mean, there's so many, layers that you can see with agates once you start carving into them.
Yeah, the cameos. I mean, some of them are just amazing.
Yeah, and that's like with all agates, not just like, the banded or the bullseye agates, but also like, the other color, the other color agates. I mean, I
Yeah.
actually have a signet ring with that's agate, and there's initials in it, and it cuts through the white, and then you see the like kind of burnt orangey color underneath, like almost a carnelian color underneath. So it's just amazing what they had done with that. So let's move on to the next period.
Yeah. Well, this is also Victorian, but just a different example. And this one is beautiful. I love how it's Victorian, but it has a modernness to it. It's a sort of simplicity to the design. And this is what is often referred to as a family locket, which I love these. So it opens up, opens again, and it opens again. And this one has two sisters, and then their locks of hair. They almost look like twins, but I don't think they are. It's really interesting. One of them is tinted. The portrait is hand tinted, and one is not. So it's really interesting.
That is really interesting. Also, and that's the other thing is sometimes the hair was put in for just to keep the people you love close to your heart. So let's say that was, one of the family members had it and was wearing it to keep close to the heart. And eventually it became a memorial piece, not this piece in particular,
Yeah.
but when it had hair, eventually it would become a memorial piece when the person actually died.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes what they did was they would like you said, it would start just as a sentimental piece, but then they would add the dates of the death on the frame. And I actually have one that's for two sisters, and it does have the dates and it has the plates of hair, but no portrait. And then it's interesting, you see so many different styles of hair work in lockets. So this is the Prince of Wales plume. It has a little
Mhm.
gold flourish here, but like in this one, it's a plate, which is a little hard to see, but it's woven hair, so you don't even really necessarily notice that it's hair at first.
Right.
It's just interesting all the different styles of hair you see in these lockets.
And I mean, today that locket that we just saw was so modern. It could have been designed today because so many modern designers are designing lockets today,
Mhm.
and some reference the past and some try and do it really, a much more modern version. And that one is, the shape of it and everything is so modern. You can wear it with it. I mean, all of the lockets you can basically wear it today with anything, but that one's like probably the most modern.
Yeah, this
I
is
mean, the
just so
banded
so
axe,
sleek and beautiful.
yeah, I think the banded agate's pretty modern too, because you can,
Yeah.
so many people wear like neutral colors, black, gray, and navy, whatever. So that one would be like, a no-brainer also for.
And then
Um,
I have another locket, which is also Victorian, but this is what they call aesthetic revival, inspired by Japanese, Japan opening up. So it's a Japanese influence with the fan,
and yeah,
and diamonds, but this one is amazing. Look at this.
I
It
love it.
pops open to reveal. So you have 3 spots for photos. So this could also be a family locket. You could have 3 pictures in there.
I love the fact that it opens up like a fan. It's
I
beautiful.
know, and that it's spring loaded. So like you just touch that little lever on the bottom and it pops right open.
Oh, that's so
Always
cool.
fun jewelry that does a trick. It's like a personal favorite of mine. And what I didn't mention is with all of these, well, except for the blue enamel, I paired them with chains that aren't even necessarily from the same time period, but like, I just like to sort of mix and match and create a look that goes together. So this is a fairly contemporary chain compared to the locket, but I think it gives it sort of a, yeah, more current look.
Yeah, no, and I love mixing time periods. I think
Mhm.
you can definitely do that. Whether you mix, time periods that are close together, Georgian and Victorian, or you mix, something Victorian with something that's from mid 20th century, or even like a 70s chain. I mean, it doesn't matter as long
Yeah.
as it kind of works together, and it's more fun. And
Yeah, and it makes it look less precious and like you're, in a period drama or something. You want it to look current, you want it to look fresh. You don't want to look like you're stuck in a different time period. Um,
exactly.
and that's what I love about antique and vintage jewelry is that like it has such a history, but you bring it into your life and you make it modern and you make
Yeah.
it part of your look, not somebody else's.
Yeah, which is great because then it becomes so much more individualistic if you're, combining different things, and
Yeah.
even if you wore another pendant with it that was from another time period, like, layered, if the one chain's long. I mean, it just, it's whatever you want to do. There are no hard and fast rules to how to wear these things.
I know. I love the way people are mixing. Yeah, like you said, layering the chains. They're putting all sorts of different things together. I mean, from different cultures and different time periods, and they create this whole story about, where they've been, what they've collected, the experiences they've had. It's like the modern interpretation of the charm bracelet, but with a
Yeah.
different twist.
And what's also interesting is that people can take these pieces from the past, because we love the kind of storied jewelry, that kind of feeling that there was like, who wore this before,
Yes.
and where did it come from, and then make it their own because they can relate so much to it. So like the enameled heart, for example. I love blue enamel and I love hearts. I mean, so that would be a piece I would, I would bring into my own collection because of, the feeling and and I love sentimental jewelry. So it's like you bring it into your own realm, even though it's from the past, which
Mhm.
is really, really cool.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like it's had this whole life, a whole history, and now you're writing a new history for it. You're just becoming a chapter in its life.
Yeah, exactly. And then it moves on to the next chapter.
Exactly, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I see you have my book right there. I'm so happy.
It is amazing. Oh my God. I started, I haven't finished it, but I got like a good portion through and I can't wait to finish it because there's so much information in it. And I love how you do bring it into a modern context, collecting, which is what we're all going for in our community, is that, we want to help people really wear the jewelry. It shouldn't just be a collection for collection's sake. It has a life, and but it's also so interesting to learn all the little tidbits, what the meaning behind the piece is.
Yeah, but that's that was, I guess, what I wanted to do that was different from other, but I wanted to make it different from other books. And to me, having quotes from you and other, really, experts in the field was a way to bring it into a modern context. Also talking about defining one's style and the essentials, which aren't from one time period, all of that kind of brings it into something that's more modern. And I think that that was needed. I didn't just want to write another scholarly antique book, because that was done
Yeah.
so many times before and done really well. So I wanted
Yeah, and I feel like your book is for people who are really trying to start and create a collection, but it's much more accessible than some of the like big huge books that like I don't know. I mean, this one's a good one too, but like I have some books that, oh my God, there's so much information in there, but it's just a little too hard to digest. So yours is really good because it gives
Oh,
good.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I was like, I wanted people to it's like having a conversation with the book. You know what I'm saying? That's, the quotes really help that. It's not just my voice and it's not just me talking, but when I do, it's also a little bit more conversational.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So,
And I
anyway,
mean, the people that you chose to include in your book, everybody has their little like segment of what they do, but it's so interesting to hear each person's take on things. And then you put it together and you have like this full overview of our little industry.
yeah, which is, growing and growing.
I
So,
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's been so nice talking to you about this, and
Yeah.
so nice seeing your small selection of. I know you have a much bigger selection of lockets, and great engagement rings, great pieces that I've bought over time. So, which is with many of the dealers in the book, because I know that I put trustworthy people in the book. People I knew for a long time, people I knew that would give good quotes, and also that the people that wanted to buy jewelry could go to and really really trust their trust in them to give them the right thing. So it's also people I bought from that as well.